and welcome to the Summary Soft Book Nook, a podcast about all things books, publishing, and more. My name is Emma, and today my guest is Athena Potkovic. Athena has completed a BA in publishing and runs a blog called Paper Cups and Paperbacks. Now on with the show. Welcome, Athena. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So to begin today's episode, so you've just recently graduated. Congratulations, first of
Yeah,
all.
thank you.
Um, so what are you currently planning on doing? So obviously you did an MA in publishing, is that right?
It's actually BA.
BA in publishing. Nearly
Yeah.
got there. So what are you currently doing at the moment?
So I've moved back home thanks to student accommodation living stopping. But so I have been applying to jobs like crazy, the fun stuff, because I would love to stay in London. That's the big goal. But in the meantime, I am at home and just really trying to build up my social media following. So I'm trying to work on my blog, my Instagram, and hopefully get my YouTube channel running again.
Yeah, as you said, your blog seems to be your like side project at the moment.
Yeah.
Is it sort of something that how did you begin your blog? Was it as a result of your degree, or was it something that you started before you started university?
Yeah, so I actually started it during my first year of university because my lecturers suggested we find a hobby that can tie into something that we could present to future employers, but at the same time is something that we enjoy, so it doesn't seem like a task that you have to do. So originally it started as just a blog, and I enjoyed it, but as someone who has loved photography for years, I felt like I needed a second outlet. So quickly, I think within a day or two of starting the blog, I started my Instagram. And so that's actually become my main hub where people find me on Instagram and then from there find my other bits. But I've definitely, since my course has started finishing up and I wasn't so stressed, I really want to put more time into my blog because not only have I become more comfortable with writing, but I've also kind of worked out the niche that I want to fit, which is the whole helping people deal with life after graduation where you kind of don't know what to do, but at the same time giving advice to get into publishing. Because I know my way into publishing has been quite unique to from a lot of people because I got to do a degree in it. So I feel like it would be so important to give the tips that I've learned from my lectures and classmates and share that to people through the internet.
Yeah, of course, because as you said, it's just there's such a big community now on Instagram and Twitter. I mean, Facebook obviously has its own audience, but especially with industry professionals, it seems to be Instagram is where mainly things go through now.
Yeah, definitely. That's where, like, from the first couple of publishers I had contact me for arcs and reviews and market campaign to take in part in, it was always, hey, we found your Instagram. We really like your content. Can we send you this book? And then from there, I've started kind of trying to build up a following on Twitter. And I found that really helps because with people who are actually in the industry, that's how you can connect to them.
Mm.
So I've even had it where I've found a job opportunity just because someone said, hey, come work with me. And then that was, way more helpful than just doing a Google search of publishing jobs in London.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. So, kind of moving on. So obviously, when you first moved to London, it must have been quite a big sort of move. What advice would you give to someone that's planning on moving to London for either university or for work, or how was your experience when you first moved?
My experience was a bit complicated compared to a lot of my other classmates because I was dealing with being an American who was required to get a visa. So that added some extra stress as far as like the timing goes because then it was okay, I need to get my visa approved before I book my accommodation, but if I don't book accommodation, I won't have anywhere to stay. So it was quite a stressful process of getting to London. But then once I was there, it felt like going to the place I belonged at because I've I've been visiting London since I was about 6 years old, and I've always said I want to live here one day. And so actually getting there was this amazing dream come true. But I would definitely say it was definitely a learning process. I grew to be way more independent, whether that was because my first year living situation wasn't the best or my course was quite small. So if you didn't get along with everyone or only some people, it was always there's always some tension there. So, what I would say to anyone moving to London who's in that similar situation where they don't necessarily feel like they are part of the UK group, if that makes sense, is to just throw yourself into it. Like one of my favorite things I've started doing is where I take myself for date days. And so going to London by yourself, you just feel way more immersed into it because when you go with friends, if say a restaurant's too busy or you're on a set time schedule to hit a certain place, it can feel quite stressful, and if something goes wrong, you just get really wound up over it. Meanwhile, if you're just by yourself, you just go with the flow. So I would say definitely just embrace London for what it is. That can be easily an overwhelming, crazy big city, but if you just explore and utilize the discount travel tickets or what I love, the store cards, like the amount of books I've gone for free from Waterstones is amazing. It's like one of my best memories from there. So it's really just dive right in. Don't be afraid of it. And keep in touch with your family as much as possible. Even if that's you having breakdown in between classes, just message a family member and say, hey, here's what's going on. And they'll help you, and it helps you feel less alone.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I remember being out in Sydney in Australia and like traveling, and it was so overwhelming when I first got there. And you just
Yeah.
like, you just didn't know what to do with yourself. So I've definitely had those messages. I'm like, I want to come home and stuff like
Yep.
that. But in the end, you're just like, nope, this is what I've saved for the past 2 years, and you know that. But in the end, you do enjoy it. It's just the comfort zone of
Yeah,
somewhere new.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the time that it comes time for you to leave, you're absolutely heartbroken.
Totally. I remember doing the crying on the plane. I can definitely remember doing
Oh
that.
yeah, yep. And all you're thinking is, I have to get back. Somehow I'm going to make my way back, whether it's, in a couple of months or 20 years, I want to be back here.
Yes, of
So it's
course.
just trying to remain positive in that sense, which can be really hard, especially in the publishing industry with it's such a big industry, but people love it, so they stay. So there's quite a low turnover rate where you're trying to slip in as an entry level, and it kind of takes a miracle, it feels like, where you just need that one person who's like, okay, this person is what we've been looking for. Let's give them a shot. And from there, you're set.
Yeah, of course, because as you said, the publishing industry is massive, and obviously you've got the big five, and then you've got the indie publishers as well. As you said, because a
Yeah.
lot of people stay. It's a great industry, so obviously a lot of people end up going up, but there's like so many entry level positions. You think they're coming out, but they fill so quick.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a very fast paced industry if you're looking to get into it, and it's very competitive.
Absolutely. And it's that feeling when you find out they're like, oh, sorry, there was over 500 applicants and you didn't make it. And that's when it really hits you as to how many people you're going against.
Yeah, of
And
course.
yeah, it's super intimidating, but at the same time, it's what I want to do with my life. So I try to not let it get me down.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so kind of moving on again. So obviously you studied your BA in publishing in London. What were the challenges and like the positives, pros and cons of like studying in London? Obviously, first London, I know.
Yeah, yeah. So the pros was, well, I would say a mix of a pro and a con is the education system. So I even now getting my degree and trying to work out how I got a first class degree, it's quite a different system to the US. So understanding the grading system, that was a very confusing thing to me, and I still don't fully understand it. But a big positive at the same time was how different it is where I majored in publishing and minored in creative writing. So it was getting used to having 3 to 4 classes a week based on publishing and then one a week based on creative writing, and how each of those were just at complete times. So you were never quite, you had a very weird schedule, which was something to, it was a bit inconvenient at times, but you just had to learn to embrace it. So it was a pro in the sense that you had a lot of free time, which is kind of where my blogging came into really growing. But at the same time, because it was not, say, first 3 days of the week, you get everything out of the way, then you have the rest of the week to try to find an internship somewhere. You didn't really get that opportunity. So that was a bit hard. I would also say my university was supportive, but not as supportive as was originally expected, which I think a lot of people can say about their education
Totally.
experience.
Totally can agree with that.
Well, yeah. So it was, really a social aspect was quite a struggle at first. But by the third year, I joined a yoga society. And from there, I had that something more added to my routine where not only did I know I would be talking to people, but I'd also have that physical activity to really decompress and, you know, deal with the stress of dissertations and final projects and all that fun stuff. So it was really just kind of understanding how different things would be from what I always pictured university being like, and just being able to roll with it and say, hey, I'm going to make the most of my experience anyway. Because, like you said, if you ask anyone, they're going to say the best pro was just being in London, because how many people can say they got to study in London? It's amazing, it's a dream come true. But at the same time, it does come with the cons.
Yeah, of course. As I said, it's like anything, you're going to have the best and worst of things, regardless of experience. I
Yeah,
mean, going back to sort of the university schedules, I can sympathise with the university schedules. I mean, I literally have 1 hour lecture 4 till 5 on a Monday, and I'm just like, why?
yeah, yep,
Why? Who put that there? And the scheduling is not the best. The best ones are is when everything's on one day, so you
yep,
can just get it all done. But yeah, that's the perks of university. Unfortunately, it's just one of
yeah,
the things you have to
yeah,
deal with. So I normally used to work my do a shift in the morning at my job and then just go into uni afterwards. But as I said, you made it work, so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
always just keeping a diary, which I should probably end up doing more, and planning my week should
Oh,
definitely be
yeah.
one.
Highly recommend it. A planner has saved me countless numbers of times.
And also reading when you have to do your reading, which is
Yeah.
always
Oh,
something
yeah.
with university, trying to fit your like leisure reading around your course. I know you did a creative writing, so you kind of probably had to do a bit of reading as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it was definitely more of a struggle the first 2 years, or I would say the first and the third year. I really struggled with leisure reading, but at the same time, I know how much it helps me. So it was kind of that thing of even if I slip in 3 pages before I turn the light off for the night, it will help me so much. So it's just finding that any moment. Like I'm such a firm believer in always having a book with you, because even if you're, say, standing in line at Starbucks waiting for your coffee, you'll have those few minutes of just reading and escaping. So it's really, there is a time you just have to look closely for it.
Yes, always have a book on hand, no matter what it is, because it is
Yeah.
always useful, especially when you're doing public transport. Because I have to commute about
Oh,
30
yeah.
minutes, so it's just way easier to sit down and read. Or audiobooks, which is another one if you're
Oh, yeah.
walking.
Audiobooks are fantastic, especially for traveling.
Oh, definitely, definitely. So, kind of moving on a little bit. What are currently you looking at your future like plans at this moment?
Yep. So I'm trying to get into publishing in London, obviously. And currently, it's been by doing a publishing degree, you're introduced to so many of the different departments, and you're kind of able to work out where your strengths are as well as where your strongest interests are in. So currently, I'm really looking for jobs that are in contracts, rights, and marketing, because I love that whole legal approach side of the industry, but at the same time, going to someone saying, hey, we have this fantastic book for you. Let's try to really push it out there. So that's where I've kind of narrowed it down. At this point, it's really just apply, apply, apply. But it definitely, being an American complicates things a lot because as soon as people see my application where it says American, they know, oh, she needs a work visa. And I've even been told by some people before where they're like, look, you might be great for the job, but because you require sponsorship, we probably won't give you a shot, which is quite a hard thing to, you know, take when you're in such a vulnerable, stressful situation. But thankfully, a good fact to actually put out here because not a lot of people know it, and I've learned it through a couple of companies as well as my university, is that as an international with a visa, whether that's, Australia, Canada, USA, if you have a UK degree and you're trying to work in the UK, you actually have different visa requirements. So it's a fantastic thing because they're kind of easier requirements to fulfill, but a lot of companies aren't very familiar with it. So they see me coming in trying to apply for entry level role and they think, oh, this girl's crazy because obviously it doesn't meet the salary requirement, but it actually does because of my UK degree. So I would definitely put it out there to anyone who's considering coming to the UK for education is just really making sure you get all of that research done before making that choice because it is quite a life-changing choice and it does make things a million times harder once you have that degree.
Yeah, of course. And would you say you're going to be working a lot on your blog and your photography as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. Those are things that I definitely don't plan on letting go because they're a creative outlet and they've brought me so many fantastic opportunities already. So I can only imagine if I'm actually working in the industry with that on the side, how amazing that would be to tie together. So I definitely don't want to let those go. I just want to keep them growing.
You've got to keep those side hustles going. It's all about
Yeah.
having a side hustle, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's great. I know they're trying to. SYP did a talk on it recently with Ellie, and apparently it was like very good. So I'm gonna shout out to Ellie and her awesome talk. So great. So that's awesome. That's really cool. So finally, what book would you recommend that you've read recently?
Yes. When I saw this question, I was like, oh, yes, this is like my type of question because I love recommending books. So, my recent one that I still to this day cannot stop thinking about, and it's been over 2 months since I read it, was Carval by Stephanie Garber. And I know it's quite a well known book that I was very behind on finally picking up, but it had that perfect mix of you feel like you're reading adult fantasy, but at the same time, it feels like young adult fantasy. So, as someone who's trying to broaden her reading horizons more, it was such a neat mix, and I could not put it down. Whether that was standing in line, being on public transport, laying in bed, wherever I was, I wanted to read that book. So I would highly recommend it, even as someone who's been super trained on creative writing and the certain aspects that a good book has. That book has it all, and I cannot get enough of Stephanie Garber as a person and as a writer. So I'm flying through her books. I actually need to pick up Finale ASAP, and then I'll be content and can finally finish the trilogy. So I highly recommend it for anyone and everyone because I think it's one of those fantasy books that even if you're not super into fantasy, you'll get hooked to it, and it could even introduce you to the genre, which is an amazing thing.
Yes, as I said, if you got a good plot and a good story with good characters, I think you'll pretty much get anybody on board.
Definitely, yeah.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. You can follow Athena on Twitter at Cups and Books. If you'd like to get involved with the podcast, you can get in touch through Twitter at novelm16 and use the hashtag Slothcast, or you can send me an email at summerslothbooknook@gmail.com. You can always find our podcast on the YouTube channel, Summer Sloth Book Nook, or you can download it from Podbean and Apple Podcasts for an on the go experience. See you next week. Bye!